Hi, welcome to Dierbergs Presents Everybody Cooks. I'm Barb Ridenhour.
And I'm Kathy Chipley.
We're really excited to do some spring cooking with you tonight. We're going to show you a few of our favorite recipes from the March Everybody Cooks magazine.
That's great. Now, if you're planning a springtime brunch menu, we've got some terrific ideas for you. This first recipe will be the hit of your brunch. It's brought to us by Josh Allen. He is the owner of Companion Baking right here in St. Louis.
Josh, welcome to Dierbergs.
Thank you very much for having me tonight.
I've been a fan of the artisan breads for years and years and years. It's so good to have you in the kitchen cooking with us. But we're taking a slight break from bread. We're making an egg casserole that you serve at your cafes right here in St. Louis.
Yeah, we've been baking bread fresh for the whole St. Louis area for 18 years now in our little elf factory down in South City. And about 10 years ago, we opened a cafe in Clayton. We really wanted to be able to have an opportunity to talk to folks every day who are consuming our breads and our baked goods. And we had to develop then a menu to kind of complement bread, so the companion to our companion bread. Right. And the baked eggs have been a hit ever since we opened, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Is this really wonderful baked egg casserole. It's easy to do ahead. It's great if you got a lot of kids running around the house, or if you got friends coming over, because it holds really nicely. So we're going to start with roasting some new potatoes. So we've got some red potatoes here. We just quartered them, seasoned them with a little bit of onion powder, rosemary, salt, pepper, olive oil, threw them in the oven for about 45 minutes to an hour, just to get them a little bit brown and also fork tender. Because these are going to cook. They'll cook a little bit in the bottom of the casserole dish, but we really need to start that process in advance. And these can be done in advance. They can be done anytime. They can hold in your refrigerator, and you can do it that way.
Okay, 45 minutes to an hour extra sleep in the morning is a good thing. So.
Right. I mean, we can do the whole thing the night before, which is what's really nice about this dish. We actually make the egg custard the night before, and then we bake them off in the morning at the cafes. So that's something really easy.
Better and better.
Nobody wants to get up that early on a Sunday. So we're going to start by making a simple roux. Okay. So we've got a quarter cup of butter, which is about a half of a stick, and then we've got a quarter cup of flour. And we're going to mix those together and cook that out. And this is what's going to allow us to bring everything up and thicken nicely.
Okay.
Because we're going to make just like a white sauce or a bechamel to be the base for our custard here.
Okay. Now, what color are you going for?
We don't really want any color on this. We want to just make sure that we cook the flour all the way through. So it is going to kind of bubble up, rise, fall a couple of times, and that's all okay. So you can see now we don't really have any color here. It's starting to get a little bit, it's cooked out nicely. Okay. And then we're going to take a mix of milk and heavy cream.
Wow, really rich.
Yeah, but I mean, this is going to serve an awful lot of people. So we're going to add that into our pot here.
Most of it.
Most of it into our pot here.
That's why I'm here. Here you go.
And then we want to keep stirring. We've been known to spill occasionally.
It happens here,
I know
too.
it probably doesn't happen in your kitchen, but it happens
believe it or not, it actually happens here, too.
And so the thickening power of a roux isn't really going to take effect until it comes back to a boil. So we got the bubbling here. As soon as we get that bubbling and that boil, we're going to turn our heat off. Okay. And we've got our thickness, and this is going to be now the base for our custard that we're going to make when we add it to the eggs.
Okay.
But first, we're going to add a little bit of chive, add a little bit of salt and pepper, some Parmesan. This is almost like making a cheese sauce for a macaroni and cheese at this point, but then we're going to temper it into the eggs. And then I've got a little bit of Dijon mustard. You can use Dijon, you can use a whole grain mustard, either one you want to use. Just something that's got a nice little bit of kick to it, because obviously it's a tablespoon for an awful lot.
Okay.
And we're going to give that a nice stir. And then we need to temper our eggs. So the last thing we want to do is scramble our eggs here, or we'd be having breakfast now instead of in an hour after we take it out of the oven. So what we want to do is just add a little bit. I'm going to make sure I don't burn you, Kathy.
I appreciate that.
Just adding a little bit at a time so that we don't scramble our eggs. Once we get it up to temperature a little bit, then we obviously can add the rest of it in there. And while our bechamel was coming to a boil, we put our potatoes in. So we put them in. It basically becomes the base or the crust of this baked egg dish. You're going to add some Gruyere.
Great.
Potatoes and Gruyere are a really traditional, classic combination. It's not too assertive, but it's got really nice flavor and great meltability for the bottom of that.
Huge amount of creaminess, too. Okay. Put that over. This is about 8 ounces. You're going to look for the Gruyere in the deli section. It comes in a block, and you'll need to grate that fresh as you prep your recipe.
Now, at this point, you can refrigerate this egg base till the next morning and put this whole thing together in the morning. You can put it all together now, refrigerate it overnight, and then bake it in the morning. And to be honest with you, it has happened before. You can bake the whole thing tonight, and then you could reheat it in the morning if you needed to. For some catering events or things where we need an awful lot of it, it certainly tolerates that. It's a really wonderful creamy egg dish. So we're going to pour that in. Fills our pan nicely. This is going to rise and fall, so we do want to make sure that we leave, certainly leave a little bit of space for that to happen. And then the last thing that we're going to do is add our bacon on top. If you don't want bacon or want to do turkey sausage, you could pre-render some turkey sausage and add it to the top here or something. So it certainly can be vegetarian. It can be any way that you want to go. But it does add a nice little bit of bite and a little bit of salt to the whole thing by adding this on top.
Don't scrimp on the bacon.
Oh, sorry.
A little bit more.
So then we're going to put that in the oven for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on your oven.
Now, it wouldn't be a complete companion breakfast without talking about bread. So I'll pop this in the oven while you get started on your almond toast.
Yeah, we do want to talk about bread a little bit. And one of the joys of being a baker, obviously, is the ability to always have some bread in the house. And so we've got a loaf of day-old pain Beaucaire here, which is our long-fermented French bread. Probably our most popular bread. We've been making it for 18 years. It's real high hydrated, which means it has a lot of water in the dough. So you get a nice moist crumb, you get a crisp crust on it, and it'll really tolerate kind of being baked a couple of times. So this is almost like twice baking something, not as far as like a crostini, but we're gonna add a really nice almond spread to it, throw it back in the oven, and it's great. It's also a great way to use up day-old croissants, brioche, soft pan breads. Anything that you want to use is really nice, though I do like a little bit thicker slice than just kind of traditional sandwich slice. So if you wouldn't mind cutting those into like 3/4 of an inch or inch thick slices. We're going to start with some almond paste. So this is sold in...
It's in the baking aisle.
In the baking aisle.
Right. Just not to be confused with marzipan, just slightly, same flavor profile, but sweeter and more used for candy making.
And this is a wonderful thing. It does need to be kind of broken up in the mixer a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I've got 4 ounces, which is half a can. You can certainly wrap the almond paste, the rest that's left, put it in the freezer, and it'll keep forever. I've got a half a cup of sugar. I'm going to mix that to break that up. While that's happening, I'll also add a little bit of cream to it, half of my half a cup or 1/4 cup of cream to kind of help accelerate the process. So once you get that nicely incorporated, we're going to add 1 stick of softened butter in there, because what would anything be like in the morning with toast without a little bit of butter? And we're going to whip that. So this is going to have like the consistency of a cookie dough or a cookie batter, that same kind of feeling to it. We're going to whip that, and then I'm going to add the rest of the cream to bring it up nicely to something really nice and soft and spreadable. So we've got our almond paste here, our almond spread that we did. Again, a little bit of butter, sugar, cream. Right. Pretty simple.
It came together beautifully.
Thank you for slicing here.
Sure.
And then all we're going to do is take a nice heaping amount and spread that right on top.
Well, you do put on a pretty thick dollop of this.
I happen to like almonds. You can certainly go a little bit less.
I like the amount you've chosen.
But it'll get nice and puffy, and the moisture from that will certainly help keep this. You're going to sprinkle a few sliced almonds on top. They'll get really nice and fragrant when they toast in the oven. And this really is just going to go in the oven for 8 or 10 minutes. We want the edges to get nice and crisp, and it'll puff up nicely. It keeps really well. It's great with coffee in the morning, really nice with tea. Slice it in half, put a little ice cream over the top of it for dessert at night, and it's really a great dish. So I'll throw these in the oven, and we'll kind of see where we go.
Okay. Oh, beautiful.
So here we are out of the oven. We got really nice poof right now. So a knife we stuck in there came out clean. It's ready to go. It does need to wait about 10 or 15 minutes before we cut into it. So it is going to fall a little bit, which is okay. It's sort of part of the deal.
Got
so
your drama right now.
You can keep the kids at bay a little bit while they're looking at it and drooling. We took our toasts out, which have a nice brownness to the edges. They got a nice crunch on them.
They are.
And really a nice addition to this
These are
breakfast.
the ones I want to dig into right now since we have to wait on that. Cheers with our toast. Oh.
Great crunch. The butter really keeps the whole thing moist, and it's just nice.
It is delicious. And this really, I'm going to take your advice. Serve this with tea, coffee, any kind of little afternoon treat. Delicious. Now, the menu would be terrific just with these 2 items, but in the magazine we've got one other suggestion we'd like to make. That's our spring salad with a raspberry poppy seed vinaigrette. Adds a nice spring flavor and a really pretty pop of color to complete your menu. Josh, thanks so much. This is an excellent menu for brunch time.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I had a lot of fun tonight.
So did we. Now we're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned. When we come back, it's time for pizza. So don't go away.